to see how the Spurs tied this series against the Thunder 2-2. Now, after that disappointing loss at home in Game 3, Shaq was on Inside the NBA, and he said the Spurs' response needed to be led by Wemby.
I'm going to need Wemby to do more. Game 1, he had 41-24, they won. Game 2, 21-26. It's not enough. And I can say that as Lord Supreme of all big men.
Lord Supreme. He has the best titles for himself. All right, so how did Wemby respond? After Game 3, he said he needed to be a better overall teammate and help his guys get better. Well, it started there on the defensive end with that big block, and then how about that move? And then follows up his miss. Just all the things. And then right before the half, this is what everyone will remember from this game. I mean, that's a straight jump shot from half court. He had 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks in the first half. That's almost identical to his stat line from all of Game 3. But more importantly, his team had a 12-point lead at the break, third quarter. Stephon Castle with the lob over 2 defenders and 1. The double-digit lead would increase. Wemby, 33 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks. First Spur with those numbers in a playoff game since Tim Duncan back in 2008. We head to Game 5 Tuesday in OKC.
So many people are responsible for how your offense in particular runs, but is part of Victor becoming like one of those great players to feel that obligation? It's like it's his responsibility to set that tone.
You know, I think a lot of people would say that, and regardless of that, I think that's what he wants. I think he wants that responsibility and to be in the lead there, and he's built for it. When you get into these series, we spoke pregame about the chess match, and you can get into a little bit of a whirlwind in terms of, do I adjust and counter, or do I just want to do it better? And both answers are right when you talk about them in a meeting room. And those guys have done a great job of executing a little bit of both. And I thought tonight was probably their best performance, maybe of the year, because of the circumstances of just being better at a lot of things.
You know, I think overall, you know, they played like their season was on the line and we didn't. You know, it shows in the box score, so.
All right, for some more perspective on the Spurs win here in Game 4, bringing in Stephen A. Smith. And Steve, it felt like San Antonio lost that home court advantage they stole in Game 1 as fast as they got it with their Game 3 loss at home. But what type of statement did they make to come back and even this series tonight?
Honestly speaking, I don't think they made much of a statement. One team came to play, the other team did not. When you look at Oklahoma City, you know, you got to give San Antonio credit from the standpoint that they recognized the urgency of the moment, and they were led by Victor Wembanyama, who dropped about 33, and he obviously was a force. But there's not many nights that you're going to see the Oklahoma City Thunder shooting about 15% from three-point range and about 30% from the field. And a lot often, they had some open shots, and they just weren't making them. They were flat all night. They didn't come to play. They came and showed up like a team that had handled their business in Game 3, so we don't have to have the urgency in Game 4 that we had in Game 3, and they played like it. So I thought they were flat tonight. It would be one thing if they came out and they was making shots and then San Antonio put the clamps in them or what have you, but they were missing shots all night long. Nobody looked the way they normally looked, including SGA. And Chet Holmgren has been a virtual no-show throughout most of this series, so that hasn't helped either.
Well, considering how well they played in Game 3 after being down 15-0 to come back and win that game, and their championship medal going back to last season, how surprising are you that they were so flat in Game 4?
I am a little bit surprised because they're champions and they know what it takes. But you got to remember, I was covering the Western Conference Finals last year when Minnesota rolled up on them and beat them by 40. I think it was like in Game 3. They were up by as many as 44 points. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander walked off the court with a smile on his face, clapping like there was absolutely no concern whatsoever. And then they came back the next game and they beat Minnesota. So they tend to have these games from time to time where they're a bit flat. There's no denying that. But you did expect them, considering how tough they know San Antonio to be, considering the fact that they had San Antonio on its heels after winning Game 3. You didn't expect them to come out and be as flat as they were, but they just were. It just happened.
All right, so now it's a 3-game series. Wemby goes for 30-plus in Game 4. Now they got to go on the road to try to get home court advantage back. What are you expecting from him in that game, considering what he did here in Game 4?
Well, I think it's going to be a physical matchup in Game 5. There's an urgency at the moment. Oklahoma City does not want to go back to San Antonio down 3-2-5, Game 5. You don't want to say it's a must-win because you saw them win Game 3, and they are the reigning defending champions. But nevertheless, it's going to be an important game. You don't want to go back to San Antonio down 3-2, in my opinion. And so if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, you've got to be ready. Art Stein's going to play a pivotal role because the physicality that he's going to try to throw in Wemby's direction is something that he's gotten away with in a couple of wins this season in this playoff series, and maybe he'll be able to get away with it again in Game 5. If you're San Antonio, you've got to offset that. In my opinion, one of the things they might want to consider to do is making sure you consistently have a big out there with Wembanyama, get him off the 5, not subjecting him to the level of physicality that you know they're going to throw in his direction. Have somebody else as a big body to preoccupy some space on the front line and use Wemby as a 4 or dare I say even a 3 since he's got that skill set. I think those are the kind of things that will facilitate a level of success. They got to take that into consideration, but we'll see what they ultimately do. In the end, however, San Antonio has regained some momentum because they go to Oklahoma City knowing if they're able to win Game 5, then you've got a big-time problem because then Oklahoma City would have to go back to San Antonio down 3-2 instead of up 3-2, and that's going to really put them on their heels. So Game 5 is definitely pivotal for both teams, but in my opinion, it's
all going to be masterpieces. So as much as you want to win, there's nights where you just don't have it for whatever reason. And so maybe it was one of those nights, but you also can't like throw it away. You have to look at the process in a clear-eyed manner and see what corrections you can make. And I think some of the turnovers and some of the shooting was a result of the way we played and a result of the way they defended. You know, I'd never take away credit from them when they played the way they did. But it's a little bit of both probably. You know, like it wasn't our night, but at the same time, we could have been a lot better. And we need to be a lot better in Game 5 when we want to compete in the game.
Vic, to your right, those of us who watched you kind of mess around shooting half-court shots after shoot-arounds and practices, it doesn't seem like you make a whole lot of those when you're messing around. What did you think leading into that one, going into halftime?
I was just thinking shoot to score. I wasn't messing around at halftime.
Said he's really enjoying the adjustments, and I was curious for you in your first playoffs, how much have you enjoyed the game-to-game adjustments as a chess player yourself? How would you compare it?
There's definitely similarities, as in any strategy game. It's fun. It's very fun. In the playoffs, at some point, especially when a series drags on, everybody knows the other team like almost by heart, so it's different. I would say the coaches hold a lot of this load of the chess match. You know, the coaching staff, all the strategy. It's a lot. They do a lot of film. They work really hard.
Vic on the right, you said when you were sitting there the other day, we're going to find out what we're made of in this game. So one, did you wonder what the answer to that would be, and what did you find out tonight?
I didn't really wonder, no, because we didn't do nothing unexpected. But the truth is that we had never been in this kind of situation before. It was our first deficit in the playoff series, and we just responded. But it was nothing amazing. It wasn't magic. We just did what we needed to do, and the series is far from over. We got 6 more wins before we can rest.
In the first quarter, Devin had that block of McCain. Mm-hmm. Then he comes down court and feeds you for a lob dunk. Does that kind of sum up how good he's been on both ends in this series and in the whole playoffs?
It's hard to sum it up with just one play because his impact has been all over the floor, on all kinds of areas, and off the floor as a leader. So summing up his
impact which his display would not be fair to him.
Vic, after the last game, you said you needed to do a better job of essentially helping your teammates, and everyone around the team kind of says that you're hard on yourself. I'm wondering where that comes from, and then, how do you manage the last 48 hours